This is the video review for Transformers Prime Powerizer / Voyager class Thundertron. Thundertron is an interesting figure, mostly by aesthetics, because he's a lion that transforms into a space pirate with a peg leg. He doesn't have to have a peg leg, but he can have it if you want. He has quite a few interesting things about him, and quite a few flaws. We'll get to those as we get to them. First up, though, is his Powerizer weapon. It's a claw thing, normally. Claw which doesn't extend past his fist, by the way, so it's kind of useless. And then, an awesome sword. Now, I don't like the battery pack on it, but this is, aside from Ultra Magnus' weapon, the least offensive Powerizer weapon I've seen to date. The only problem is that, like usual, it doesn't lock out. If it locked out, this would be one of the, probably the best Powerizer weapon I've ever seen, because when it's deployed, it just looks nice and sleek. I don't like this, but if it just deployed like this, I wouldn't mind it. I'll probably end up removing this and gluing this into an outward position, so it's just a sword with kind of like a claw, what would you call it, the thing on the sword to keep another sword from sliding down and cutting your hand. Hilt? That doesn't sound quite right, but basically it would just look like a normal sword that plugs onto the side of the arm. Anyway, let's get on to the basic figure itself. I've rambled on about that sword long enough. This is his line mode. I don't think it looks bad, but I think this area right here looks pretty under-detailed. He doesn't have a lot of posability, and if you look at him from the front, his front legs look kind of laughably short. I wish he were a lot better than he were in this mode, just in terms of posability, because his front legs, you just move this and this. That's all you get. And then the back legs, you can move them a little bit, but any movement you do just makes them too long, and it doesn't really work. So he's basically a modern-day brick. He's got posability, but it's kind of useless. So that's about all I can say about this mode. It looks nice, but it's not amazing. Now, to transform this guy is pretty simple. It's basically just the usual Beast Wars trick of standing up. It's got a couple interesting things about it, but most of the transformation is just getting certain details where they need to go. So do that to the legs. Then you'll take this thing here, pop it out. That will free up a peg on the inside that allows you to push the legs together. Unfortunately, the legs don't really lock together. They just kind of flop. And because of that, I actually usually keep the legs separated and with this thing out, or in the beast mode position. What I'm planning on doing is actually gluing these legs into the out position so that this thing can be in a robot mode position, because when the legs are separated like this, it actually doesn't look that bad. You can't, if you didn't know they went together, you wouldn't even know that was the thing. It's just such a small difference. Now, to continue transforming him, what you will do is you will untab this from the legs and pull the legs out and around. And then you'll pull these out. These are his arms. Like this. Bring them down. Pull out the fists. Down. And pull out the fist. Then what you'll do is you'll pull this up. And pull these down. Bend this down. Pull the head up until it clicks. Push these out. And then what you'll do is you will take this little tab right here and plug it into the shoulder bit there. Take the forelegs, rotate them around. There's a little slot there and a tab there. Bring them together. Bring these up and sort of put them into a straight line like this. Do the same thing to the other side. Make sure these get plugged back in. And then fold these over his shoulders and pose them up how you like. And this is Thundertron in his robot mode. And I really like the way he looks. He has a nice aesthetic going on. It's not, unless you give him the peg leg, it's not explicitly a pirate, although he does have a mean look about him that, if you know he's a pirate, really communicates the pirate look. Especially this little tramp stamp right there. So it's a really nice looking figure. I love how the chest forms. I love these shoulder pads. The head's quite nice. And, yeah, I mean, he's a nice looking figure. I don't quite like the transformation because it's pretty finicky. And most of it's just standing him up and then putting details where they need to go. So that is a bit of a problem for me, but he is a nice figure. To give him the peg leg, you just pull this foot off, and this foot turns into a weapon. And surprisingly, he actually doesn't have many problems standing with the leg off, with the peg leg. And then you can push this down and plug it into his arm. Now, normally I don't like this because I actually like the foot with the peg leg foot. I actually like that one's articulation a bit more than the other one, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to put his foot back together. What happens is they have the same basic articulation. They both tilt forward and back, rotate side to side, and yeah, that's it. Side to side, forward and back. But what the difference is that they both have these kind of things, but on this foot, they're joined together. On this foot, they're not. So with this foot, you can use these things as heels and make sure that they're both touching the ground. On this one, you can only make sure one is touching the ground, which kind of irks me. So, one thing that you can do with this figure, if you have two of them, is the legs are basically identical. So if you had two, you could take one leg off and put it onto the other, and trade them out, so you'd have one that has both of the peg legs, which is what I would do, because I like the articulation on the peg leg foot a lot more than on the other foot, and then give the other one the non-peg leg foot. So yeah, that's the, those are the peg legs. For articulation, the head has barely anything. That's it. It's because he has a super long beard in there. The arms go forward, back, in, out, rotate above the elbow, bend 90 degrees at the elbow. Then you can bend the hand, legs go forward, back, in, out, rotate above the knee, bend at the knee, then I've already shown you the foot articulation. You can also move these things around as you need. So yeah, he's a nice looking figure, but I feel like he's more show than substance. Like, compare him to Ultra Magnus from the same wave. I've played with Ultra Magnus just a lot more. He's a more fun figure because he looks more intimidating and imposing, and while he has some articulation restrictions, he's not as finicky, because this guy has this stuff here, his tail here, this stuff here, a bunch of stuff in his legs that gets in the way of his feet, these things here, which they're great for articulation, but they do get in the way. Then he has this shoulder pad here, this stuff here, which can bump into the shoulders like... it's not... well, sometimes the shoulders bump into that thing, and these things, and I just feel like this guy is an excellent display piece, but he's not really fun to play with. Whereas Ultra Magnus is a lot of fun to play with once you get past his shoulder articulation problems. So, I recommend this guy. If you just want a display piece, he's great. If you want a fun figure, he's not really a fun figure. He's okay, but I would recommend Ultra Magnus over this guy, just because Ultra Magnus isn't as frustrating. So, yeah, that's about it. It's been a review for Transformers Prime Powerizer Thundertron. I reviewed Transformers, Power Rangers. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.